Hello folks, this is Wayward Eko, and today we're going to be talking about the 4th dev stream. This stream was focused on updates to shaders, environmental models, and all the new weapons. If you find this update helpful, please consider subscribing. We'll start with the environmental updates. Alpha 19 brought in lots of new materials, and now in Alpha 20 they're going to be updating those to have higher resolutions. In regards to new materials, Justin Owen, senior technical artist, noted,
we don't have a whole lot of new block materials this alpha. We're going to be doing more next alpha.
So we should have some new materials to look forward to in Alpha 21. With Alpha 21, we'll see a new shader system. The prior system was inefficient due to the number of calls. The updated shader system packages a number of the shader options under one umbrella and gives even more control. Showed a good practical example of this in regards to the irradiated smart material. This allows for the irradiated material to appear as if it's coming from within the zombies. If you look at the irradiated zombies in Alpha 19, they have almost a cartoonish appearance to them. New shader tech really gives a dynamic range of light that we didn't have before. This allows for vascular and tissue details. They've also implemented a new entity tint mask shader. So what does that mouthful mean? This means we can expect a lot more creativity and variation in what we see in the world in terms of colors and how they apply that. So here we see a simple example of fire hydrants. Applying this to the furniture in a POI, you could take the same black couch and have it be either red or green to fit the theme of your POI. If you're worried about crawling into someone else's sack, worry no more, as colored bedrolls will now alleviate that awkward situation. World Gen will be covered in a later stream, but they did show us the generation stamp. These are the artist rendered models that will be fed into the World Gen engine. Here's a quick example seeing some of those models being tossed into the desert biome. This is really pushing the limits of what you can do in a voxel-based game and is really impressive. For all the destruction in 7 Days to Die, they wanted to add debris scattered about to make it feel just more realistic. In addition to a better look, the new debris also gives way of traversing POIs in new and interesting ways. In this before and after, you can see kind of how this is blocky and broken and doesn't really look like it logically makes sense, and here you can see the rebar strewn across and broken up ground. Next, we have the high poly version of the ambulance. This will be an environmental object and unfortunately not something we can ride around in. This is one of several objects that they went to good effort to get some reuse out of. So here you can see the ambulance version of this vehicle, but then they also modified it to be multiple types of utility trucks, including working stiffs. And here you can see they've got an electrical repair truck. I just think this is a great way to reuse the asset and get more value out of it. Next, we have the new cellar double door entrances. They are in the process to update these so that they will be normal double doors that you can use for bases. One of the interesting characteristics around these doors are that as they take damage, you'll see a hole start to appear in the center of them. This will actually have collision physics associated with it so that once there's a hole in the center, you can actually shoot through that. Next, they have updated all the mines in the game. If you look at the images across the top, these are going to be the high poly versions, and then the versions on the bottom are the low poly versions that you will actually see in the game. One of the key differences in these from the old models is that they do have a blinking red light on them so that they should be a little bit easier to see on the ground. Next, we'll get into what I loosely label as POI furnishings. So here is that bedside stand that we had in the past. Here's the microwave updated and the disgusting filter applied to the high poly version. Next, we have the stove here. You can see that they'll apply that tinting factor that we talked about earlier to give some variation between the different ones. Here we can see a number of assets they've added to the laundry room, from the rags on the ground to the laundry basket. And then they've put in these big industrial laundry machines. You can see the backsides of them there as well. Next, we've got the new versions of the toilets, also known as pistol chests. And if you're looking to clean up after a hard zombie day, here is the new bathtub, now with more gore. Speaking of gore, the Fun Pimps are very excited about it. Here are the new human remains you'll see scattered about the world, and here are the new animal remains. In support of the new Restore Power quest, they've added a number of junction boxes and switches and other electrical components. Here's an in-game shot of how that all comes together. Next, they showed the new models for tools, generators, and spikes. This is the only image you'll get to see of the wooden spike and iron spike updates. Here is the new large generator. This is the one that you'll see in the Restore the Power quest that's going to be coming with Alpha 20. Here's the updated player craftable generators that we'll be able to use. Significant more detail than before. I really appreciate the Mo Power electronics sign. Here we have our new chainsaw, and damn is that thing looking good. In addition to just an updated model, they've also done some significant updates to the animations for this one.
Gave the chain a little bit of like an idle spin to it. A little spiciness. I know that's not the correct way, but I mean, you know, if it's not properly tuned, it's going to have a little bit of that pull.
Next we have the auger, and much like the chainsaw, they have also taken some steps to make this look a little bit more interesting from an animation perspective when you're using it.
The auger, you see the auger now actually kind of starts in an idle position and kind of shoots out in front of you, whereas currently in 19 it just sits in one spot and plays an animation. So just wanted to get something that kind of sits in a better angle, a little bit off to the side.
Now let's take a look at all the sexy new weapons that they have for Alpha 20. They've been dropping images over the past year, and each time they get sharper and sharper. There's the revolver. Here is the Desert Vulture / Eagle. We've got the Tactical Assault Rifle. Next we have the AK-47, and this one's really sharp. I appreciate the brushed metal on it. Next up we have the Hunting Rifle, and they showed a little bit of the animation on this one.
Hunting rifle, yeah, this animation's pretty much the same, but I did fix something that came up as a bug. There was a bit of a jitter in the hunting rifle. I'm sure everybody who's ever used it.
Next we have the new lever action rifle. This one's got kind of a unique animation.
I was trying to find some reference for this. I always kind of went back to Evil Dead, the Army of Darkness at the very end, where Ash is like flying through H-Mart or S-Mart. And he's just firing this thing away. Not really realistic the way he was firing it, but
the M60 machine gun was supposedly one of the hardest models that they had to put together. Here we have the basic pistol with scope, and then here we've got an SMG. I love the little details like the Mega Crush used for a silencer on the front. And finally, here is the updated rocket launcher. That thing looks like a beast. Next up, we've got the pipe weapons. So here is the pipe SMG. So important note on watching this, they did a bunch of work on the sound design for this, as well as the mechanics of, you know, you've got the little locket hanging on there, you've got the screwdriver utilized for the reload, just a lot of nice touches. For all the primitive weapons, one of the balancing agents that they did was to slow down the reload rate. You can see here in the animations just how long it takes.
Real sloppy, bullets flying all over the place. Just having some fun with it. It's all animated bullets too, so we kind of have them animated all the way out off screen.
Next we have the pipe rifle. This one, the reload, that basically looks like they're beating the crap out of the poor gun. Yeah, I don't want to think about how my hand would feel after a few rounds of that. Lastly, we have the pipe shotgun, which we have seen before. Next, we have a quick shot of the progression of bows in the game. They didn't go into all of them, but we did get to see the iron crossbow here. And then this is the compound crossbow. And then finally, here is the compound bow. So lastly, for content, we'll take a look at the way weapon aiming works.
And this is the third-person stuff. So right now we have, this is what you currently see in 19. Third person, you don't actually aim.
So if you've ever filmed anything in 7 Days to Die, this is super obvious. So here's the shift that they made in this.
Or you get to see, you can actually, now you can aim up, aim down. This is gonna be on all the ranged weapons. Right now there's a bit of work to do to kind of finish out the set. And then as you're walking, you actually have a little bit of a weapon sway, kind of get like a run going with it.
That is a pretty big improvement overall, so that'll help a lot on the third-party views. So that covers all the content from last night's dev stream. Now let's get into some of the Q&A that I picked out of here. There weren't a ton of questions that I want to cover, but let's hit just a few.
Somebody was asking if the world has more dead bodies and gore laying around now. Yes.
So there you go, some more gore for you gore lovers.
So somebody was asking about shader performance. We try to build everything that we're building new. We try to build it more optimal than the previous version.
So there wasn't a lot of detail beyond this. I'm actually very curious to hear what they're going to do from a performance perspective and hope that maybe they'll get into that in the next dev stream. I know there's a ton of folks who would love to play this game, but the performance requirements are just too high.
There's a couple of people asking about the tent system for zombies. We're talking about that. We're talking about if we want to do some sort of tent system for this next alpha for the zombies, or if we just want to have texture variations, because a tenting system is a little bit limiting. Like you can just shift one mask to a new color, but with another texture that you stream in with a separate texture, you can have gradients within that modified texture. So there's some trade-offs there. So we're talking about that.
So I actually like the sound of this because textures on zombies would definitely give more flexibility to have variation in the zombies versus just recoloring them. So lastly, if you just want to know how many of these dev streams there are left, here's Lathan.
I was asking about how many dev streams there are. Lathan, is there two?
There's gonna be two more, and then we're gonna start doing some playthroughs. So you gotta listen to us for 2 more weeks before you get to see some in-game stuff.
So there you have it, folks. 2 more dev streams before we get to some live playthroughs. That's all I've got for the 4th dev stream. If you have found this useful, please consider subscribing. I'll be back next week to cover the next dev stream and then the week after that. Hope you all have a fantastic day. Eko out.